Good day. In this video, we're going to look at fractions in algebra. We're going to do plus and minus and then times and divide. Before we start, please remember, if there's anything in school mathematics that you're not sure about, try and sort it out. Otherwise, send the problem to us with a WhatsApp photo to this number. Then we will try and solve your problem and send back an answer to you as soon as possible for free. This is the first question. What the question would say is simplify the following. Then you can see this is two fractions. How do we know that? We see two things on top of each other and another two things on top of each other. That's what fractions look like with a divide in between. Then the rule says copy this fraction down, change the divide to a times, and then flip this one over. Write this at the bottom and this one at the top. Now this fraction that we had in the beginning was changed into a multiplication sum. This stayed the same, this became a multiply, and these two swapped around. Next, we factorize all four these positions. When you factorize this trinomial, it will look like this. When you factorize this bottom, you'll take out a common factor of 3, and you say 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 2 is 6. Then you factorize this position. This trinomial will turn into these two factors. Then you try and factorize this bottom. This one can't, but I still have to put a set of brackets around it to make it into a unit. Now everything is being factorized. Now you should know that if you have a fraction multiplication sum, you can cancel across or up and down. So we will simplify this now. Firstly, we will say this goes in here once, and this goes in there once. This one goes in here once, and this one goes in here once. Now there's nothing else that can be factorized across or up and down. I just rewrote this to show how the factorizing is done. Then you'll see at the top here, this bracket is left, and that bracket. At the bottom, that 3 is left. The rule of fractions multiply says times the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. So our final answer is these two brackets on top of this number. Let's just summarize. We have a fraction division sum. We change the divide to a multiply and flip this guy over. Then I factorize all four the portions. After that, we cancel where we can, and then we just times the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom and write the answer. Next, we have an algebra fraction, plus and minus sum. How do we know it's fractions? It's stuff on top of stuff. That's what makes it fractions. In a fraction plus and minus sum, you keep the tops the same way they were. You just rewrite them, keep your plus and minus, and factorize the denominators or the bottoms. If you can't factorize it, you just put a bracket around it to make it into a unit. This can't be factorized, but it's the wrong way around. We want the x in front. So we write it that way and again put a bracket around it. Now we factorize this trinomial, and that'll end up with these two brackets. The rule of fractions plus and minus is you must find the lowest common denominator and write it down. The lowest common denominator is one of the important sections of maths. Please look at the video that explains it. In this case, the lowest common denominator I'm going to write over here. I start with this bracket and I write it down. Then I see here is a different bracket and I write that down. Then I check if this denominator is happy. That x plus 2, yes, I see it. X minus 3, I see it. So this is my lowest common denominator of these denominators. Don't get afraid because all these numbers and variables suddenly appeared again. So we had a normal thing that we brought down and tried to factorize the bottom. Normal thing, brought it down, tried to factorize the bottom. Normal thing, brought it down, tried to factorize the bottom, could factorize the bottom. Then we found our LCD. Now we do the following. We ask, what do you times this bottom to get this bottom? That is then x plus 2. So if I times this by x plus 2, I must also times this guy by x plus 2. So I write the 14 and then I write x plus 2 in a bracket next door. Then I ask, what do I times this bottom to get this bottom? I will times him by x minus 3. Then we also times the top by x minus 3. So you write down the plus 5 and you times the 5 also by x minus 3. Then you ask again, what do I times this bottom to get to this bottom? I can see that this looks the same as this. There is an answer. I must times this by 1. So I'll times this top by 1. Don't be arrogant on this step. Please write down this minus and then the one I just said and a bracket around this packet. At this stage, the bottom is irrelevant for a minute and we just simplify the top first. Like I said, keeping the bottom. I'll times 14 times x is 14x. Timesing the 14 by plus 2 gives me plus 28. Then I times the plus 5 with the x, and I get 5x. Then I times the plus 5 with a minus 3, and I get minus 15. Then I times the minus 1 into this bracket. Minus 1 times 9x is minus 9x. I times the minus 1 with a minus 5, and that'll give me plus 5. In the next step, we keep the denominator like it was and further simplify the top. Like I said, the bottom will stay the same. Then this 14x plus 5x and minus 9x will give me a plus 10x, and the remaining numbers over there will give me a plus 18. It's always a good idea to factorize this top part again to see if I can maybe cancel this with one of these brackets, but it can't, so we could have stopped this previous sum at this step. But it's always good to factorize further and see if you can simplify further. Please indicate whether you liked or disliked this video and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy mathematics.